रोज खाओ अंडे।
Very good evening, viewers. You're watching News Today. I'm Preeti Choudhary. Our big talking point. Friday prayers take place today, and right after that, massive protests, coordinated protests across the country. Was it organic? Was it orchestrated? Importantly, should there be an outreach right now? And on the other hand, should various governments of state crack down on the violence and the arson that was witnessed through the course of the day? All of that we're going to touch upon. First up, the headlines. Big showdown over Nupur Sharma's prophet remark. Massive protests across the country after Friday prayers as clamour for her arrest grows. Fury of faithful or organised protest. Delhi police probed social media message calling for a star cop suspect. Protest was pre-planned in Delhi. PFI's political wing, SDPI, leads stir in Karnataka, AIMIM in Maharashtra. Political links to the pan-India protest emerge now. The big Rajya Sabha rumble. Congress wins 3 seats. BJP gets 1 in Rajasthan. Media baron Subhash Chandra loses. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Congress leader Jairam Ramesh win from Karnataka. Kerala gold scandal accused Swapna Suresh alleges pressure to withdraw statement against Kerala Chief Minister and his family. Releases audio tapes of the alleged threat call. Prime Minister Modi's big tribal outreach in his home state Gujarat inaugurates a multi-speciality hospital, launches multiple projects worth 3,050 crore rupees. Rupee drops 19 paisa to new low of 77.93 against US dollar. Sensex crashes over 1,000 points while Nifty slumps to 16,200 level. 6-time world champion MC Mary Kom withdraws from Commonwealth Games trials after sustaining a leg injury. Veteran boxer to give the games a miss now. And 3 dead after a shooter opens fire in Maryland factory in the United States of America. 23-year-old gunman shot down by police at the factory itself. Top story, viewers. Stones, effigies, lathis. It was Friday fury on the streets across the country in at least 8 states. There was pan-city pandemonium against Nupur Sharma's prophet remarks. Angry protesters descended after Jummah Namaz, demanding, in some cases, Nupur's beheading. Other protests asked that she now be arrested. Was this escalation organic or orchestrated? Pouring out of Friday prayers and onto the streets. Tens of thousands of Muslims rallying in protest over offensive comments against the Prophet. Many demanding arrest of former BJP leaders Nupur Sharma and Naveen Jindal.
It is very, very bad speech against our prophet, and we can't tolerate this. And our Prime Minister should take action.
This is a democratic country, and in a democratic country, you have the right to speech, but you cannot do any hatred speech.
The mobilization began after weekly Jummah prayers.
नहीं, मुझे तो पता भी नहीं, न जामा मस्जिद की तरफ से कोई इस तरह की कॉल थी। अचानक नमाज के बाद जामा मस्जिद के चौक पर यानी गेट नंबर 1 पर नारे लगने शुरू हुए, लेकिन कौन लोग हैं ये अभी पता नहीं।
Demonstrations unusual in their scale and spontaneity. A curfew imposed in a remote town of Doda district of Jammu and Kashmir as a precautionary measure after hate speech and a blasphemous post by members of two communities. Heavy police presence in Old Delhi after protesters took to the streets from the historic Jama Masjid.
There's very heavy police deployment, and the reason for heavy police deployment is because the administration does not want the situation to go out of hands. All those devotees who came out told India Today that the action that the Bharatiya Janata Party has taken against Nupur Sharma, according to them, is not enough. They want stricter action to be taken against the likes of Nupur Sharma.
The protest turned violent in some parts. The riot police used force to break up angry demonstrators. Muslim protesters clogged Kolkata in West Bengal.
A lot of people turned up, might be something around 200 to 300, and the entire stretch was completely blocked. Now everyone that we spoke to, be it kids, be it elderly people, be it women, a lot of them had the tricolour in their hand. Everyone stated only one thing, that Nupur should be arrested. There should be a legal action against Nupur Sharma.
A similar rally down south, around Charminar in Hyderabad.
It is Makkah Masjid, and here just after Friday prayer, a large number of people came out from the mosque and they started protesting. They were chanting a slogan against two particular persons who are allegedly showed disrespect toward Prophet Muhammad, and they also demanded that since cases are booked against those persons, police should arrest them.
After days of diplomatic blowback, a tense fallout from the Prophet comments has left the country reeling. Bureau Report, India Today. Viewers, before we cut across to our panelists this evening, I want to take you now to our reporters who've been responsibly tracking the very sensitive developments as they are taking place across multiple cities that saw, and we have to say it, coordinated protests right after Friday prayers. Cutting across right now to my colleague Abhishek Mishra. He joins us from Prayagraj. Satyajit would be joining us from Ranchi. I have Surya Agni Roy from Howrah, Ashish from Hyderabad. I want to begin with Surya Agni Roy, who joins us from Howrah, because Surya Agni, it was calm in the day after the protests stemmed, but in Howrah, once again, we've seen sporadic incidents of arson, of violence, where a police station was attacked in terms of stone pelting just a short while ago. What's the latest?
Well, Preeti, the latest is that till Monday, that is 13th of June, internet services will be suspended in Howrah. That's the latest that has happened. That is the biggest development throughout the day, because there is always a fear that, fake messages and fake videos, get WhatsApp, get shared, and that incite violence. Now, as you rightly mentioned, Preeti, that Howrah has seen a lot of violence today. The last, as of yet, being the Domjur police station that comes under the Howrah police jurisdiction, where, protesters pelted stones, vandalized vehicles in front of it. Almost 10 people, 10 police individuals, police personnel got injured in it. Police had to retaliate. They had to lathi charge and make sure that tear gases are burst so that the crowd disperses. Apart from that, we need to understand that even yesterday there was a huge ruckus on National Highway, and which connects Kolkata, Howrah to the other districts. Today, the administration did take a cue from what happened, what went wrong yesterday, and that is the reason why I'm telling you this. Is every time there was, there was a try by the protesters to stop the cars, to block the national highway by burning tires or, creating a ruckus.
Okay.
Huge deployment of Bengal police was made sure, so that.
Well, right now, as we speak, Satyajit is pointing out, internet is snapped right now in Howrah. There were protests that took place earlier. Then there was a little bit of a lull. And then we saw arson. Then we saw violence in Howrah, where the protesters attacked a police station. Satyajit getting us the latest from Howrah. I want to move right now to Prayagraj, where my colleague Abhishek Mishra is joining us. Abhishek Mishra, there was earlier on lathi charge in Prayagraj because the protesting mob went on a rampage. What's the latest? Are things in control?
Well, absolutely, Preeti. After this incident, the administration has taken the action, and there has been quite an arrest so far. 109 is the number which we are getting, with the maximum in Saharanpur, 38, 15 in Prayagraj, 24 in Hathras, 7 in Muradabad, 2 in Firozabad, and 23 in Ambedkar Nagar. So that is the action which has been taken. CM Yogi Adityanath has given strict orders to take strict actions against all these elements, and at the same time ACS Home, be at the DGP, both have said that there are sufficient amount of forces. Now what is more important now is the identification of all these antisocial elements who were doing this protest. Although it looks like that it was a planned kind of a thing, because the numbers which emerged after the namaz and the way they were, planting the stone over the forces, and there has been a lot of violence as well. So that clearly shows that it was a kind of a planned activity. But now the administration and the UP government has taken the call, and now every minute detail has been recorded, and there is a strict vigilance as far as these affected districts are concerned, where the picture came of the protest.
Abhishek, I'm going to come right back to you. I want to cut across right now to Hyderabad. Ashish, my colleague, has been reporting right outside the Makkah Masjid, where protests took place. Ashish, there was sloganeering, there was a large amount of crowd. What is the situation right now?
Preeti, right now Hyderabad is peaceful. In fact, entire Telangana is peaceful. But yes, in the afternoon, post Juma prayers, in several districts as well as in Hyderabad, the city witnessed protests. Several of the mosques, outside the mosque, protest took place. In Hyderabad, the biggest protest took place at Charminar, outside Makkah Masjid. There, after intervention of senior police officials, the protester went away. But in several other areas, at least 2 areas of the city, police had to use mild force to disperse the crowd. So police used mild force in Hyderabad in a few areas. In Mehboob Nagar, there was a massive protest there. It is alleged, and police has booked a case also, that allegedly national tricolor was disrespected. Police have booked the case and are trying to identify those people who are allegedly behind this kind of disrespect.
All right. Okay. So, yes, there was the Indian flag which was disrespected, where the Ashoka Chakra was replaced by an Islamic insignia. We just want to say on the channel and on the show tonight that if the tricolor doesn't have the Ashok Chakra, then it's not the tricolor at all. We're going to keep a keen eye. What we're also getting to understand right now, that Ranchi is under curfew. Ranchi saw the maximum brunt of the violence, viewers, with many policemen injured. Arson, violence, and an out-and-out eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation between the mob and the cops, where the cops had to fire in the air to dissuade the protest, which had gone clearly off the rails. I want to now connect to our panelists this evening. Joining me, Sudhindra Kulkarni. I have Mr. A.L. Banerjee, former DGP UP, and I have Feroz Muthi Barawala, National Convener, Indian Muslims for Secular Democracy. Mr. Kulkarni, I'd like to begin with you, and there are multiple questions that are coming to light right now. That first, yes, one thing is very clear. These protests were coordinated. One can't deny that. They happened one after the other in each cities. On the other hand, many places in these cities, it went violent. There was arson involved. There's no place for a violent protest. There is no place for arsonists in India. But the bigger question also beckons, Sudhindra Kulkarni, that clearly these protests that are happening 2 weeks after what was said by Nupur Sharma in a debate asking right now, the arrest for Nupur Sharma also seems to suggest that the Muslims are fairly alienated, that they have decided to protest, even if it is in a coordinated manner and organized manner, after the international community put pressure, international Islamic countries put pressure, where it does seem that Muslims in India now identify with the larger identity of being Muslim than Indians.
Let's first understand that the anger in a large section of the Indian Muslim community is understandable. They have a right to protest. They also have a reason to protest. But they have a duty to protest, in the sense, duty in protesting peacefully and lawfully. Therefore, incidents of violence must be condemned, and those who organize these protests must know that violence brings disrepute to the protests. It defeats the purpose of the protests. It is not in the interest of India. It's not even in the interest of the Muslim community itself. So therefore, anything that is done in the name of protest to incite violence is something that must be condemned, and the state has then a duty to crack down. I hope that in future, such things are avoided. At the same time, we must know that countries around the world, Muslim countries around the world, should not interfere in our affairs. But for this to happen, the government has a duty to ensure that the Muslim community is treated fairly and with justice, which is not the case. And therefore, the government has given a chance for the countries around the world, Muslim countries, to condemn what happened.
Right.
And therefore, instead of just saying that the international community is putting pressure on India, we should introspect. Why has this situation come into being in the first place? The Nupur Sharma episode should not be seen in isolation. A series of incidents where Muslims were ill-treated, Muslims were targeted, they were victims of targeted violence, both by the police as well as by Hindu communal forces. And the government was indirectly encouraging this. And therefore, I hold the government responsible for whatever has happened, and the government must now take the corrective action.
You know, I want to connect right now to Mr. Mithali Raj. And the question I want to ask you, sir, is taking off from what Mr. Sudhindra Kulkarni said. The fact is, yes, the interference of international Islamic states is condemnable. But is there a sense now where the protest that we saw today, you know, we're going to get to the point that they turned violent, that there was arson involved, which has no place in Indian democracy. We'll get to that point. But the fact that these protests happened after Islamic nations across the world condemned it with what went down, and the government was compelled to take action, that the Muslims in this country are now identifying with the larger identity of being Muslims and identifying with these nations instead of their core identity of what we'd hoped that they would, which is being Indian.
No, I don't think that's true. Indian Muslims clearly identify as Indians. And in fact, let me tell you about the hypocrisy of these so-called Gulf Islamic nations. For them, it is, they have come out when there has been an insult to the Prophet Muhammad.
True.
But where were these Gulf nations when Muslims are being lynched, calls for social economic boycott, calls for genocide from the Dharam Sansad? There was no Gulf nation or Islamic nation ever talking about it. They don't really care. These same Gulf nations don't care for Palestine. The Saudis are involved in the greatest genocide in Yemen right now.
Or the Uyghurs in China.
Yeah, no, that's a different question. I don't agree on that point. I don't think the Chinese are indulging in that, but that's a different issue.
Right.
But the point is that as far as the Gulf nations are concerned, we have the sorry state of the Taliban giving us teachings on multi-religious societies. But let's also understand what Sudhindra Kulkarni is saying out here, that the government of India has brought this disrepute upon India. We are now answering countries like Qatar and Pakistan and UAE and the others who don't have this understanding of universal or don't base themselves on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. These are all Islamic states. The Hifazatul Islam of Bangladesh is giving us lessons on secularism. But this is what Hindutva has done to this country, and especially in the last 3 years, where we've actually come down to this level of these Islamic countries. Now also I'm saying that today's protest, yes, Muslims are too scared to protest, actually. I mean, the way things are, I'm surprised to see protests in Uttar Pradesh, and they've turned violent. The point is, yes, you can protest, but no violence is very clear. This is a country of Mahatma Gandhi and of Maulana Azad and of Baba Ambedkar. You have every right to protest, but this is no way to target the police and to stone throwing and all that. Okay. The other thing I'd like to say is that actually human rights is not an internal matter anymore. Human rights is a universal value. I have a right to speak out against the blacks being targeted in America. I have a right to speak out against the minorities being targeted in Pakistan. I have a right to speak out against the Palestinians being targeted by the Israelis. I have a right to speak out, and so do other countries. I mean, the United States, for all its evil, but they do come out with an international report, the Commission of Religious Rights. That report is very, very important. So our own friendly allies are seeing how India is descending into a mobocracy.
Right.
And so that's the point. But I think I think what really is required right now is for the Prime Minister to speak out to call for an end to this.
That's the fair point, and that's what we're coming to. But I want to bring in Mr. A.L. Banerjee, former DGP UP as well. Mr. Banerjee, the fact is the issue is so sensitive, and there's such a tightrope walk that the administration now needs to walk, because yes, it's very clear where arson is involved, where violence is involved, that there's a heavy hand which comes down and stops it and action is taken. But on the other hand, how do you give that message of an outreach which clearly there are emotions which are running high, and the outpouring we've seen in form of protests?
Surely. The first thing is that the administration has to sit with the leaders of the community, and which is called peace committee meetings, and explain to them that we still remain what we are, a democracy, socialist country, etc. If this is not explained to them, they are getting the chance to speak. In fact, even indulging in mobocracy, but that this shouldn't happen anymore should also be told to them in very strict and specific terms. The extent and encompass of this violence surprises me. I didn't expect it to be happening in so many places in Uttar Pradesh and so many places outside Uttar Pradesh also.
But Mr. Banerjee, the fact that it is coordinated is very easy to see. The blueprint behind it, there was a message which went out on WhatsApp. This is coordinated. You can't deny that.
Yes, it is coordinated. And on this issue, the intelligence has been caught on a flat foot. Because if they knew that last Friday prayer resulted in the Kanpur clashes, things could again happen after the next Friday prayers. Were they prepared for that? I was listening to another channel on which it said that the violence there started in Prayagraj where the police was not present. It means that there were no duties put up there. They only subsequently, when the police came, were they in a position to control the mob. So this means that somebody sleeping over this, somebody slept over this in a couple of places, but the other places they have coordinated it and coordinated in a damn in a manner which surprises me absolutely. You have pamphlets, you have leaflets, everything, and they have gone about doing it.
You know, Mr. Kulkarni, I'm going to take off from what Mr. Mithali Raj also said. You know, the fact is that we're at the precipice of something clearly very sinister, very easy for everyone to see. Now, yes, there should be an outreach. Mr. Mithali Raj said very clearly that it needs to come from the highest authority. I want to ask you, Mr. Kulkarni, at what level should this outreach take place, and what is the scope and the level of this outreach? How do you reach out to a community which A, feels alienated, is easily instigated, and is easily incensed by both the keepers of the faith and politicians?
No. First of all, I would like to say that your earlier remark that the Indian Muslims do not identify themselves with India, but they identify with the international Muslim community, this is not true at all. The Indian Muslims are as patriotic as non-Muslims.
No, but Mr. Kulkarni, it wasn't
let's not keep on questioning the
So it wasn't a flat-out comment. It was, are we looking at that? Because we've come to a precipice where what we wanted was the identity to be an Indian, but we're alienating them, where the identity of a Muslim is overtaking the identity of India.
That's not true. They are protesting because they have a reason to protest. And they have a reason to protest, but because the government has abdicated its responsibility. There is a chain of events that has happened. This is not some isolated incident. Mithali Wala himself listed some of those things. Every single incident, beginning with mob lynching, beginning with calls for genocide, the bulldozer incident, all these things have incensed, angered the Indian Muslim community. Now your question, who should do the outreach and at what level? Most certainly it is the responsibility of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister. And they have kept quiet so far. It is not enough for the party to take some action against its former spokesperson. Since the issue is now snowballing, the Prime Minister cannot keep quiet. The entire country wants this issue to come to an end peacefully. And therefore, the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, and other political leaders, they must reach out to the leaders of the Muslim community. And of course, they must be very clearly told that violence has no place in a democracy. At the same time, their genuine anger and alienation must be understood and addressed.
You know, I'll bring in Mr. Mithali Wala back into this conversation. Sir, you know, one of the main reasons, possibly the genesis of this anger, which has been simmering, and clearly there are forces which keep stirring the pot, is the fact that it wasn't that there wasn't any protest, it wasn't that there wasn't any anger, once it was known what the spokesperson had said in a particular debate. But no action was taken for over 8 days. The action came when the Islamic states, Islamic nations stepped in. So is there a sense of alienation at that as well?
No, undoubtedly. The alienation goes prior to the Nupur Sharma incident. The alienation is stark. The insecurity is stark. The fear is stark. People don't tend to understand the level of fear within the Indian Muslim community, especially when that calls for genocide. And I mean, where is the Home Minister and where is the Prime Minister? So the point is, what is really required, and I think people like Sudhindra Kulkarni and us, whether the Prime Minister speaks out or not is a different issue now. I think as members of civil society, we need to have peace meetings in all of our cities. We need to have an organized peace effort in all our cities of not only meetings with Muslims, but meetings of various communities, all communities coming together. And so that we, next Friday, and I think we need to prepare for next Friday. If our senior most police inspector is saying that at Prayag there were no police after a protest in Kanpur flared up last Friday, then what on earth is going on? So the point is, I know, I mean, in Bombay we had peace, in Delhi we had peace. In fact, the Imam of Bukhari of Jama Masjid said, I didn't know who called for that, you know, the slogans that happened over there. So I do not really think this was an organized protest. Fridays are a day of gathering, and then things tend to get, you know, they just go
But
along
Mr. Mithali Wala, there was a WhatsApp message that went out. You know, it would be a little foolhardy to say that it wasn't organized, because city after city erupted practically at the same time.
No, but I don't know about that message. But
Right.
the point is, all it takes is to gather in the masjid at 1:30 in the afternoon, and then you walk out of the masjid and you're walking out in a procession. So I really do not think this is a coordinated effort, because most of the protests have been peaceful. The one in Navi Mumbai was peaceful. Most of the protests have been peaceful. These three are broken out. It is a sign of great worry for this country.
Yes.
And the only thing is, let the Muslims know that by protesting in this manner, you are insulting the memory of the Prophet and insulting Islam. And this is not what India is about or the Constitution is about.
Right.
So totally abjure from violence. And the point is, next Friday, even if you want to protest, it is fine. But it has to be peaceful. And the other point I would like to say is, I think it is now up to secular activists who need to reach out to all the communities and bring about this dialogue and this call for peace. In fact, today I got a call from Tushar Gandhi ji, the great grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. We are heading, and I think with Sudhindra Kulkarni here in Bombay as well, we will start this process on Monday itself by calling for peace meetings in our city to ensure that none of these things happen
Right.
in Bombay or in any part of the country.
Right. You know, Mr. Mithali Wala, I just want to also put on record that there was a WhatsApp message that was circulated, and it was circulated widely, asking for people to gather and protest.
Fair enough.
But, I just want to put that on record because that's what had happened in terms of the coordination of these protests. But I want to, go back to Mr. A.L. Banerjee, the former DGP UP, who's joining us. And Mr. Banerjee, the fact is, because there is so much distrust in the administration, in the system, sadly, in policing as well, where this one community comes into question. Now, how do you deal a hand which seems to suggest that you're coming down on the miscreants, yet the administration is impartial in the rule of law?
It is very easy. When it is always said that justice should not only be done, but it should seem to have been done. If you make arrests outright, if you take up people who are really involved, I don't think any community, any person or any people are going to call it that it has been one-sided affair. So the police can really, in these kinds of things, show that we are even-handed.
Mr. Sudhendra Kulkarni, is this possibly the hour of reckoning for our politicians are concerned? Because when you talk about politics, it's they and the politicians and the netas who stir this communal pot in whichever way it suits them. Even when you talk about, the incumbent government, schemes are for everyone. There's Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, yet there is a community which feels alienated and discriminated against.
You're right. It is truly an hour of reckoning for the political establishment and for all governments, central, state governments. Never in India's history, independent history, I mean, have our Muslim brethren felt so insecure as they do now. There were terrible riots at the time of partition, India's independence. But fortunately, we had leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, like Nehru, in whom Indian Muslims reposed their trust. And very soon, the trauma of partition was put behind, and there was a sense of harmony created. Unfortunately, in the last 8 years, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, nobody believes that it is being followed. It is just a slogan. It has no meaning whatsoever. A whole community is isolated, disempowered. Take, for example, the fact that today, in the entire parliament, the BJP has 301 members in the Lok Sabha, but not a single Muslim MP. What does it mean? It gives a message to the Muslim community that the ruling party does not care for them. It does not want them. There is simply no outreach of any kind on the part of the Prime Minister, the Home Minister. So this anger is building up. This alienation is building up. And Nupur Sharma incident has it's been a crescendo.
Mr. Mithali Raj, this anger which is building up, it's simmering, for so long, is also exploited by rogue elements within the community as well. I'm sure you'd agree. Now, the latest, the All India Muslim Law Board has gone ahead and, it's welcome that they're doing it, because that kind of responsibility needs to be taken from both sides of the community, where they have gone ahead and said and asked scholars and Maulvis not to enter debates and give out these statements, which can instigate and incense.
True. In fact, Preeti, I'm glad, because the media has a major role to play to douse the flames. And you've been very responsible in the question that you asked and the way you conducted the debate. So thank you for that.
Well, sir, thank you. I take it as a badge of honor.
Because media has been a great spoiler in the last 8 years. It has destroyed the social fabric of this country. I stopped going to most of these rogue channels. We have rogue Maulvis, we have rogue channels also. So the point is that, yes, in fact, there's a call from within the Muslim community to boycott those kind of Muslims like Sharafuddin and some horrors like him and other Maulvis who are paid to just spread hatred between the two communities. And they're so communal in the mindset and so regressive in their attitude that it is going to carry on to build the Hindu vote bank that the BJP wants. The other thing I'd like to tell your viewers is that the world is now watching India. The world has been watching India for some time because the call for a Muslim genocide actually is being discussed the world over, that India could be the country where, a Rwanda kind of situation could occur. So the world is watching statements are coming from United States, from Europe, even the Arab and Islamic countries now. And I think it's up to the Indian people, Indian civil society, the Indian media, the Indian political leadership. I think it's time for Modi ji to actually call a meeting, an all-party meeting, and to give a message of unity from all the political parties. It's really necessary right now because we are collapsing as a society, and it's very, very worrying and very, very scary. I know my childhood Hindu friends who call me and how worried they are, but they've lost connection to Muslim friends. It's very sad to say. So it's a scary situation, a worrying situation, but I have faith in the country of Gandhi and Buddha that we have the tradition of pluralism, an ancient tradition of acceptance and mutual respect on which we can build back our country. We've lost 8 years. It's not that we didn't have communal problem before Modi got along. But after Modi's come to power, it is a different new India, a dangerous India in which we are living with.
You know, I want to take this question to Mr. Kulkarni because, Mr. Kulkarni, you know, the fact that what Mr. Mithali Wala also said, that like-minded activists, people should get together and start, initiating a peace dialogue of sorts. But it's been happening. It's not that it hasn't happened. Do you also believe now the solution is more political? We require an all, party meet. We need people from the mainstream to come and possibly, stop stirring the communal pot and take the dialogue in a direction which is more tangible and conducive?
I entirely endorse and support the idea that the Prime Minister should call an all-party meeting on how to bring peace, harmony, and mutual understanding in society. And the government, of course, has the highest responsibility, but all political parties have a responsibility. But beyond the political establishment, the people of India, the civil society, all the cultural, religious institutions, they all should become active now, because peace is a common need for the entire country. We can't possibly see the situation snowballing into massive riots of the kind that happened in Gujarat, of the kind that happened even before the BJP came to power in several parts of the country. This country should not see the repeat of such riots. And therefore, it's a common responsibility of the political establishment, the government, and civil society. And I must underline the responsibility of the media. Your channel is an exception, an honorable exception, but we know the kind of poison that is being spewed by many English channels, your own Hindi channel, many other Hindi channels and regional language channels. They are doing nothing but spreading hate propaganda and poisonous propaganda. And they must be stopped in the first place. I would say the government, the Prime Minister must take very strong action against the media and not create any such situation whereby, once again, the Gulf countries, Arab countries, and other Muslim countries and other countries in the world begin to comment on happenings in India.
Well, I think one thing I can safely say is that the India Today group always endeavors and does sidestep
India
the
Today
dribble.
group.
Sir,
India Today, your channel, not
sir,
your Hindi channel.
No, sir, I take offense to that. I really do take offense to that. I'm a part of the India Today group, and I can safely say that we sidestep the dribble, we report objectively, and we present objectively. I would really hope you understand that. I want to end the debate, and I want to bring in Mr. Banerjee once. Mr. Banerjee, the fact is, the role of the politicians aside, but the role of those who actually give out the rule of law, the administration is going to be important, because we've seen in the past there are various conspiracy theories and angles that are always looked into. In terms of when we saw the Kanpur riots emerge, there was the PFI angle, then there was various other, random conspiracy theories that are floated, which really don't come down to anything eventually. I want to ask you, from here on, how does the law take its course in true letter and spirit?
The law should be applied as it is. Prima facie, to imagine that if the PFI link has been brought up in Kanpur, that is a wrong sign, or that should not have happened, is not there. In fact, I personally know the officers in Kanpur, and they wouldn't cook up a story. very few people would like to cook up a story which, because it will not go on trial immediately, maybe go on trial subsequently, and create a permanent scar. So the point is that the state police, in this particular case, state police forces, various states, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, etc., have to be very careful as to what they are doing with the information that is coming in, and use that information to stop further. They have to desensitize the people.
Well, let's just end at that. Let's give peace a chance. Protest in a democracy is welcome. Protests which teeter on the fine lines of violence or arson is not. Time to give peace a chance. I appreciate all three of you gentlemen for taking the time out and joining us this evening. And I do want to end this debate with this one blanket statement. At least the India Today group in its entirety on all its platform endeavors and does bring you the news responsibly and objectively. With that, I want to shift focus to the other developing story which we are tracking closely, and which is the investigations in the Sidhu Moose Wala murder case. Another sharpshooter, viewers, has now been arrested, but the blame game has erupted between the probe agencies. This after Interpol issued a red corner notice for extradition of a Canada-based gangster, Goldie Brar.
A big catch for the police in the Sidhu Moose Wala murder probe. One of the sharpshooters who allegedly pumped bullets into the singer is now in the custody of Punjab police. The police arrested sharpshooter Harkamal Ranu from Bhatinda. This is the 10th arrest in the case. 3 sharpshooters have been arrested for their alleged role in the killing of Moose Wala. Meanwhile, the CBI and Punjab police are bickering over Interpol's red corner notice for the extradition of the Canada-based gangster Satwinderjeet Singh, alias Goldie Brar. Brar has claimed responsibility for killing Moose Wala. The CBI and Punjab police are fighting over the date of the request for a red corner notice against Brar. Punjab police claimed that it had sought notice against the gangster nearly 10 days before Moose Wala's killing on May 29th. The central agency countered the Punjab police's claim, saying they received the request after the singer's murder. 20 criminals, including 8 sharpshooters, are said to be involved in the killing of Sidhu Moose Wala. 28-year-old singer-politician Moose Wala was shot dead by assailants in Punjab's Mansa district on May 29th. The murder took place a day after the Punjab government curtailed his security cover. Bureau Report, India Today.
Meanwhile, there's a big breakthrough in the Salman Khan threat probe. The Mumbai cops have now revealed that the threat letter to the superstar was a publicity stunt. Here's more.
Salman Khan, the reigning superstar of Bollywood, was target number 1 for dreaded gangster Lawrence Bishnoi's aides. The Mumbai police have confirmed that this death threat note to Salman, which read, "You will meet the same fate as Sidhu Moose Wala," was sent as a warning by Bishnoi's associates. The mastermind of this threat is Vikram Barad, a Canada-based gangster who targeted Salman Khan as a publicity stunt to spread the word that his boss, Lawrence Bishnoi, killed singer Sidhu Moose Wala.
3 members of the gang had come from Jalore, Rajasthan to Mumbai. This has been revealed by Saurabh Mahakal, his name is Siddharth Kamble, in a statement.
While Lawrence Bishnoi has reportedly claimed that he had no clue about the letter to Salman, his gang's involvement has now been confirmed. This is, remember, the same gangster who threatened to kill Salman back in 2018, and it prompted a rather filmy response from Salman.
जब हम करेंगे तो पता लग ही जाएगा. सलमान खान का करेंगे, मारेंगे ही जाएंगे. जोधपुर में मारेंगे तो पता लग जाएगा इनको. अभी तो मैंने कुछ किया ही नहीं, अभी नहीं मतलब कोई इन्वॉल्व कर रहे हैं.
जब भी कोई कमिटमेंट करो तो पॉजिटिव करना, नेगेटिव नहीं करना. और शिकार टाइगर जैसे शिकार कोई नहीं करता, है ना? ये सबको पता है.
India Today also accessed the Kill Salman plot hatched by the dreaded gangsters back in 2018. Lawrence Bishnoi and gang had planned to target Salman during the shooting of the film Ready, plotting a hit when the actor used to go out for cycling. The contract killer Naresh Shetty, who was also tasked with killing Salman, found his pistol inadequate for the hit after a recce of the actor's house and sought a rifle with a longer range and more firepower. The Mumbai cops have now confirmed the deadly gangsters behind Moose Wala's killing had a clear hand in the death threat to Salman Khan and his family. And for the second time in 4 years, another gangster threat to the superstar has been thwarted. With Divyesh Singh, Bureau Report, India Today.
I'm going to go into a quick break. On the other side. I'm honoured to host Mithali Raj. She hangs her boots in cricket. We'll be joined by her in a short while. Do stay with me.
Garden City bruised, battered and broken.
I'm out at the Bengaluru-Mysore road, and here you can see this road that is ridden with potholes.
Hellscape roads exposed by our reporters.
Road is always been filled with water.
I can show you some of the worst potholes in Bangalore.
Chutney politics rages on in Karnataka. Bengaluru-Mysore road faced the biggest hassle.
We went to this road and forced the government to take notice and effect change.
India Today hits the road, forces change.
Congress is raising all these issues.
Where has the Congress raised it?
See that the roads are fixed properly, deadlines have been given.
Just after India Today reported, JCP and also road roller had just used to level this road.
India Today came, saw, reported and fixed. Impact journalism for beautiful Bengaluru.
You are watching India.
Welcome back, viewers. Now, former Indian women's captain Mithali Raj this week announced her retirement from all forms of international cricket, bringing an end to a career that began way back in 1991. Mithali insists she will be involved with women's cricket. She broke the glass ceiling for many, many women who aspired to join cricket or play cricket. But as she walks into the sunset, the flag bearer of Indian women's cricket leaves behind a plethora of records and a hallmark of a legacy.
That will be runs for Mithali.
It's the end of an era.
Lovely shot this. And it's gone all the way.
Mithali Raj, the flag bearer of women's cricket in India, has announced her retirement from international cricket.
That will be runs for Mithali. She's done that right through her international career and does it yet again.
Mithali began her international career as a 16-year-old girl and announced herself on the big stage in the very first appearance, where she scored a century on debut.
Gets her 100 ODI 100.
I think when I started cricket, I've never anticipated that दिन आएगा कि young girls will look up to me. But I'm happy that today's girls have a role model कि जब वो देखते हैं women's cricket television पे, तो वो देख सकते हैं कि एक women cricketer उनके लिए एक role model हो सकती हैं. जैसे जब मैंने शुरुआत किया था तो men cricketers ही रहे हैं 90s में.
And thereafter, she never looked back. All these years, Mithali's longevity separated her from the others, and in the end, she is standing on a massive pile of runs. She finishes her career as the leading run scorer in women's ODIs with 7,805 runs from 232 games. An average of 50.68 was way better than her contemporaries, which included legends like Charlotte Edwards and Sarah Taylor. As Mithali brings curtains down on a career that spanned close to 23 years, she has records galore to her name. The 214-run knock that she scored against England women in 2002 is still the second highest test score. She represented India in 6 World Cups and led her team to 2 finals. In women's ODIs, no one has had a career as long as Mithali's, who began playing international cricket in 1999. Mithali had a great deal of success during her career, but then there were controversies as well. Especially in the last few years, where friction among the players and support staff came out in open. With T20 cricket taking over the other 2 formats, Mithali's strike rate was often spoken about and the decision to retire was widely anticipated. Even as Mithali may not be seen in international cricket anymore, she may well be part of the proposed women's IPL. In what capacity though remains to be seen. Sports Bureau, India Today.
All right, I'm joined right now and I'm honored to be joined by Mithali Raj, the former Indian women's cricket team's captain. Mithali, thank you for taking out the time and joining us this evening. I'm a big fan, and I have to say, for someone, not so much of cricket, but for someone who watched you crack the glass ceiling where cricket in India is concerned and the women, the role that women play in it. You've been that catalyst for so many women out there. And I want to begin by off the bat, if I can use a cliche, Mithali, to ask you, what's the legacy that you would want to leave behind?
No, I think, starting from an exclusive boys camp where I was the only girl, today I'll be leaving a legacy where every camp has minimum of 60 to 100 girls getting to train and play this sport. And I think that is a huge change.
Mithali, right before this interview, I was actually looking, at your career graph. It's astounding, to say the least. Your tally of 10,868 runs, being the highest run scorer in women's international cricket. You are the first player to score 7 consecutive 50s in ODIs. You do know, if it was a male cricketer with such a career graph, with these many achievements, would have been a very, very different career.
I wouldn't say now it is an ignored sport. Probably in the 90s it was. But now it is a growing sport, a viable sport, and slowly it is changing from an immature sport to a professional sport. So yes, women's cricket has its journey. I've been very fortunate to see the evolution of women's cricket in our country. But I think I only foresee very bright future of women's cricket in our country.
Ms. Raj, I want to ask you, you have so many achievements where your career graph is concerned. I'm sure you have multiple moments that and you are rather young. I'm practically the same age as you, and I've seen you with your career graph. You're wrapping up with this career that is so illustrious as yours. Do you have any regrets at all?
The only regret would be not winning a World Cup. That could probably be the only regret I see in my entire journey.
Mithali, that fact, that moment possibly changed cricket, but you as a catalyst have changed women's cricket forever. Why I say that again, I'm practically the same age as you. And when we were young girls, getting into cricket was something I didn't quite hear of. It wasn't a career option for me. So I'm quite surprised that you picked it, you excelled in the way that you did. I know you have a defense background. And, what made you take to the sport the way you did? Did you idolize someone? Is there a cricketer you looked up to?
Well, I've grown over that, that moment. But yes, I think we were very close to winning a World Cup. So yeah, it took a lot of time to get over that phase. When you lose by such a small margin, and that to a World Cup, it's quite hurtful. And I think everybody on the morning of that final, I guess all of us were very nervous. And we've never played to a packed stadium before, leave alone playing at Lord's. And when I walked in for the toss, I've seen like the entire stadium was filled. Of course, none of us knew that what was happening back in India because we were in UK, but there were so many people who turned up for that final. And after the first innings, I think, when England scored those runs,
as a captain, or the strategy that I had in mind was it is possible to score those runs. And, when we started to lose wickets for those 30 runs, I felt just helpless in the dugout. And, eventually we lost by those few runs, but I didn't know how it changed women's cricket, how people changed their opinion or their view towards women's cricket, just not in India, but globally. Only I got to know after, I came back from that tournament.
Mithali, you walked into an academy of boys, but you also ushered in, by your sheer grit in your career graph, an academy of women. A lot of young girls, and some of them are really young, 8, 9, will be looking up to you, not just as an icon or as a figure, but for advice. What would you tell an 8 or a 9-year-old or yourself when you were that age?
Cricket happened to me. My father introduced me to the sport. It happened by chance. Dad being ex-serviceman, he was in Air Force. So having that background, clearly discipline was part of the environment at home. Being one of the laziest kid who loves to enjoy a morning sleep, only to inculcate the habit of early rising, I used to tag along with my brother. My brother used to play cricket till his school level. And that's how I got introduced to the sport. As I said, I woke up one day because obviously I used to be the sleepy head sitting behind my dad on the two-wheeler. Woke up to a group of, not a group, but an entire academy full of boys. I never had a girl as a companion in that setup. And that was my introduction to the sport. And growing up, I was an all-rounder. Like as I got into cricket young, I was bowling and batting. So I looked up to Kapil Dev because my first coach used to show me this video of the 1983 World Cup. So that probably influenced me to turn into a all-rounder. But as I started to score a lot of runs, bowling took a backstage. And then I started to idolize Sachin Tendulkar as a batter.
Ms. Raj, as you leave, as it's curtains on your career, and it's very young to have curtains on a career, but it's sports. But do you think, the kind of money that comes in with it, the kind of adulation that comes with it, do you see women also now getting there where male cricketers are concerned?
I think that it is pretty right kind of a time for any young girl to take up cricket because, next year we have women's IPL. So a lot of bright things happening for women's cricket, and it will only get better and better in the coming years with the Under-19 World Cup also scheduled next year. So that is something I'm quite excited about because I've never got an opportunity to represent India at that level. But the coming years, a lot of these under-16, under-19 girls will get a shot to wearing their blues when they are so young in their teens to represent India in the Under-19 World Cup. And for any young girl who wants to take up the sport, I think just not the sport, anything you take up, you should have purpose and should dream big of playing for India, and every dream will be tested. But take up the challenge and pursue with a lot of focus and determination.
Ms. Raj, I'm going to leave it at that. That's all the time that we have for now, but we're going to play a larger interview with you through the course of the weekend. But thank you for joining us. And I know you're going to take an immediate holiday. I hope you don't take your kit bag with you there. And we wish you super success. And we look forward to seeing you as Mithali Raj 2.0 because at this age, retirement is something that one shouldn't even be looking at. So we hope to see you soon. Thank you for coming on the show, and we play out the entire big interview with Mithali Raj over the weekend. I'm going to go into a quick break. Thank you for watching. We'll see you Monday.
Welcome to our special Big in Your Life news, your weekly special for the best of the big news. In this weekly roundup, we bring you some of the top news that made headlines last week. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has announced that India has achieved 10% ethanol blending in petrol. Tweeting about the achievement, the Prime Minister said the task was completed 5 months ahead of the November 2022 target. The announcement was made by the Prime Minister on the occasion of 2022 World Environment Day. Coal India Limited is looking at green mining options and enhancing production from its underground mines, as per the Maharatna company's chairman, Pramod Agarwal. The chairman said that the public sector unit has planted over 30.4 lakh saplings during 2021-22, expanding its green cover to 1,468.5 hectares. In another big news development, India is at a decade high in the global market cap ranking. India's share in the total value of global equities hit a decade high of 3.1% on a rolling basis, rebounding sharply from the decade low posted in March 2020 when COVID struck. India is currently the 5th largest contributor to the world market cap. So that's it from this week's special of Big in Your Life News. See you next week.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com or call 9999892171.